Hi everyone and welcome, this is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a great day. I haven't been very active recently because of the whole lockdown situation. I think it's because of that. I guess the lockdown combined with how panicked people are kind of makes me feel gloomy and I can't really focus on my work. This whole lockdown situation has made me think about Muslims or people in Muslim families who now have to stay at home and have to fast with their families, have to pretend that they fast, have to pretend that they worship Allah, while they actually don't even believe in Allah, for example, or they just don't care that much about the rules and practices of Islam. For teenagers or young adults, or even older adults, it's very common to have to pretend that you are fasting. People seriously go through the entire month of Ramadan not really fasting, but lying, pretending to their parents that they are fasting. Because if they're not fasting, that has very severe consequences. You might be shamed and bullied, physically punished, otherwise punished. Instead of making people fast voluntarily and making people love the act of fasting, Islam compels and forces people into fasting. No wonder most regular Muslims think about the feast in the evening, the entire day while they are fasting, instead of thinking about Allah for whom they are fasting. Having a feast in the evening while you are fasting is a very weird thing, by the way. Eating big meals twice a day is not fasting. But whatever, I don't want to offend anyone right now. I want to talk about common sense today. Forcing people to do things is not only about fasting. In Ramadan, every day people also go to a prayer called the Taraweeh prayer, which happens in the evenings. Muslims go to the mosque with the families, with everybody to pray there together. This is not a short prayer, it takes between half an hour and an hour. It is not compulsory, but Muslims are supposed to go there because it is a tradition. It is done in congregation, and Muhammad did it at the mosque, which basically means you almost have to do it. I remember so many younger people throughout my life who really don't want to go there, but who have to go there because others basically force them to go there. I'm glad that during the lockdown, some places at least closed the mosques. It doesn't end with that either. Friday prayers, for example, on Fridays are completely compulsory for men. Men have to go to the Friday prayer. I know of so many people who never wanted to go there, but who had to go there. Other than that, of course, people pray at home 5 times a day. And in religious families especially, you are basically forced to do it, and you can be punished for not doing it. This whole culture around forcing young people, forcing children, forcing others to worship is not just something that Muslims just do. It is directly an Islamic, a fundamental Islamic thing. According to a hadith, Muhammad once said, "Command your children to pray when they are 7 years old and beat them for it when they become 10 years old." You should order the child to pray. And when the child doesn't pray when he's 10 years old, you should beat the child, force the child to pray to Allah. In fact, let's go further. Muhammad had very crazy ideas when it came to making people pray. Muhammad said, "The most burdensome prayers for the hypocrites are the night prayer and the morning prayer. If they were to know the blessings they have in store, they would have come to them, even through crawling. And I thought that I should order the prayer to be commenced and command a person to lead people in prayer. And I should then go along with some persons having a faggot of fuel with them to the people who have not attended the prayer and burn their houses with fire." According to another report, he says, "Then take a flame of fire so that I burn the houses on those who had not left for the prayer yet." And again, according to another report, he says that he will burn their houses down. This is the very sane, very reasonable, very holy Prophet Muhammad, according to numerous reports, publicly, explicitly playing with the thought of burning people's homes down on them because they didn't come to the prayer, to the mosque. This is something an absolutely crazy ruler would do. And in case you have missed it, Muhammad was an absolutely crazy ruler. He established an atrocious state in which he wanted to control people like this. Muhammad's prayer congregations at the mosque were congregations of propaganda and control and order. There people would pray behind him, and he would then give his speeches. If people don't appear to those congregations, then they are seen as hypocrites, whom he threatens with fire. This is the reasonable holy prophet Muhammad. What can you expect from followers who want to walk in his footsteps, but who have the excuse of not being as reasonable and not being as perfect as he was? Muslims have adopted a religion of force and control from Muhammad. In Islam, which literally means submission, the name says it very well. You are not taught to pray because you want to, but you are rather ordered to pray and to worship Allah, forced to fast or pay fines or be lynched or be otherwise punished by states and the public in countries today in our time. People will shame you and force you because that's how their elders did it to them. That's what they learned and that's what they give it to you, because that's how this religion works. If you grow up learning that you have to worship and you have to pray, because if you don't, then you will be punished, then all that does is to associate praying and worship with compulsion and fear. If fasting, for example, was only encouraged, suggested, and endeared to people, if people were made to love fasting because it is good, then people would actually care about it and be more genuine with it. If they are forced and threatened to do it, people just don't feel the same way about it. Then it is no wonder that you don't really fully personally care about the worship itself, but rather about just doing it so that you don't get in trouble. And how does that make sense? If our purpose is to worship Allah, and if that is why He created people, then does it really make sense to force people into worshipping Him and then rewarding them with heaven because they did it? Wouldn't it make more sense to make people love worshipping Him and worshipping Him because they really want to from the heart, and then rewarding them for it, for their love and devotion? Doesn't that make more sense? But it's just me. I'm stupid. Allah is more intelligent than that. All that creates is frustration and resentment. People are indoctrinated with it and they pretend to like it because they are culturally supposed to like it. But actually they hate that they have to live like that they have to live with it. Which is why people struggle so much doing it. Let's not lie about it. I know it very well. Even religious Muslim people know it very well, that most Muslims struggle with praying and struggle with fasting. And they give each other advices on how to become more devout, but it somehow never works for most people. If they are then shown a better way and the opportunity to be free, they will be heavily tempted to go for their freedom. That's probably why so many Muslims, especially in our time, now that they know what the West looks like, for example, that not everything is as oppressive as Islam, many Muslims want to go to the West. The vast majority of Muslim people love the idea of going to the West. The indoctrination tells you that the West is evil and immoral and free. But the instinct keeps making them desire the happiness and the freedom that they could enjoy by finally being in a free environment where they wouldn't be constantly under pressure. And you can't get rid of that feeling, of that desire, because that's how a human is. A human longs for serenity, for safety, well-being, happiness. No one wants to be constantly oppressed, constantly threatened. As a Muslim, while you believe that you need to abide by Islam's oppressive system so that you don't go and burn in hell for all eternity, which is repeatedly very graphically described in the Quran, to instill as much fear and control as possible, you also just wish there was a way out of this misery, a way to relief and happiness. It is painful, inhuman, oppressive. It is a deeply hurtful state of mind, of suffering. No wonder Muslims are so often very frustrated, very negative, very sensitive to criticism, which is by no means a stereotype, and I don't think I need any evidence to prove that. I hope Muslims can stop forcing worship on each other and punishing, especially beating younger ones. I hope Muslims can find a way out of this oppressive system as soon as possible, maybe now. Because under the surface, a Muslim is just a human, and no human deserves to be treated like that and tortured like that. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to share. Most of my videos are not monetized. If you want to support me and what I'm doing, you can support me on Patreon or on apostateprophet.com. The links are below in the description. I will be back very soon. Have a great day and stay away from Islam.